So welcome. Mel, Corinne, and I are so incredibly excited. This is the first Salesforce Healthcare User Group, the virtual user group. So instead of being a regional group or admin or developer, this is open across the board as a virtual healthcare user group. So the purpose, what are we trying to do here? This is for anyone who is new to Salesforce, or we have some very seasoned experienced implementation partners on the call. The idea is a community we're coming together, and it's not a official, it's not like a Salesforce group. This is a community user group. We have a lot of resources for us in this. We have our virtual meetings, which you'll be seeing here. We have them once a month, except for during the holidays. We have a success community. There's a healthcare user group success community that was inactive for a while. It's been reactivated and it's associated with this. We also have the Salesforce Health Cloud Success Community, which is actually run by Salesforce. A lot of you probably have seen that. Salesforce mentors that group, and it's very much a official Salesforce group, where the healthcare user group is not a Salesforce group per se. It's a community user group. So we can actually dive into different topics that we would want to discuss that still impacts us using Salesforce within healthcare. We have YouTube. We will be putting these recordings of these meetings on YouTube. And obviously we have each other. Who are we as co-leaders? There is Mel, myself, and Corinne. Mel, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Weitzer. I go by Mel. I am a project manager in the Salesforce world. And the one thing I will just say is I just seriously love getting up every day to see what new thing I'm going to find out about Salesforce. It's like just when you think you've known almost all of it, there's something else that pops up, and it's really fun for me. A fun fact that my teenagers think I should never admit out loud to anybody, but I am proud of it. I live in Colorado, and I love running outside. And when I do, I don't listen to anything but 80s hair bands. See, someone gets it.
Not as fun as Mel. I'm Corinne. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 11 years. Took the kind of traditional track that a lot of us take, where I was just kind of, a regular office admin. I was helping out with a lot of stuff, and then someone said, "Hey, we need you to learn Salesforce," and now here I am. So I've been consulting for probably about 8 of the last 11 years. And my fun fact is that I just think Halloween decorations are decorations. Like, it's a fun time of year for me. So I just get to stock up on stuff for the house. I don't know if you can see, I have Howard back here in the background. He kind of floats around. So, but yeah.
I need to see some pictures, Corinne. You need to share that in the community. So hey everyone, Tina Woodall. I know several of you on the call. Great to see you all again. I have 16 plus years in IT healthcare, everything from home health, hospital discharge planning, utilization management, outpatient treatment center, EHR support. I was introduced to Salesforce in 2017 and have not looked back. Just completely drank the Kool-Aid and love implementing Salesforce in healthcare arenas. Fun fact, I met my husband on Match.com and we're still going strong. So it does happen. Sometimes everyone's like, yeah, sure. It actually happens, and it's still working for us. All right, so jumping in more, we want to talk about implementation gotchas in Winter 21. We want to dive into this. This is a interactive. This is not like, oh, we're the authorities and we're going to be teaching things. There is, where we'll have experts in an area, but this is an interactive. Please, as we're going through, there's going to be pauses. We're going to, you ask questions, we're going to go back and forth, but we're going to have structured information to share. And each time we'll have structured information to share. But if we go off into something else and you want to ask something else, please, by all means, do that. All right. So if you're a seasoned Salesforce implementation expert, some of this is going to seem basic, but this is also a good deck to share with others who don't know Salesforce, or if you're new to Salesforce. First thing is a Health Cloud CRM and permission set licenses. People get confused on these, and really just always assign both. The Health Cloud and the Health Cloud Platform permission set license needs to be assigned to each user. And that's really all you need to know, but it can get confusing when you're looking at all the licenses. And if you're new to Salesforce or implementing, that's what you really need to know. The data model of patients. Documentation in Salesforce is still not caught up, and we still have this ongoing. The data model is person accounts. I don't care if individuals listed. We keep seeing this, and this people new to Health Cloud keep on running into this. Do not use individual, use person accounts. If you see candidate patient, do not use candidate patient. It's being retired. I've heard talk about it being used with research patient, but just don't, because it's going away. Person accounts is what you do. And that's what they're all, Salesforce is building all Health Cloud functionality around that. Continuing that, what are their data possibilities? And the Health Cloud experts actually went into this yesterday as well, but it bears repeating. The more we can keep on sharing this is that when you're looking at your data modeling in Health Cloud, this is a really good guide. If the person you're looking at has no account association, no business, it's a person account. If they have an account association in business, but never going to be a patient, then you want to use contact. Good example of this is you have a company you're working with in a different state and Sally works for that company. You would put Sally in your Salesforce org as a contact because Sally's not even in your area. The chance of Sally becoming a patient is like none, right? Because it's not even within the scope of your business. If they can be both, you may need to duplicate the person depending on security data sharing model. Give an example on that in a second. If you're in an org that's being moved to Health Cloud and you need to go to a person account, this video link is a great explanation of how to do that. It's 18 months ago. It's done with Silverline by Shane, but he's no longer with Silverline, but he's a great consultant. He did this with Salesforce. So that's a good video to reference on migrating from person accounts or to person accounts. But this number 3, what if they can be both? What if they, what would you do with that? It may seem counterintuitive, but you want to create 2 people. You want to create the contact, who's the business relation, and you want the person account as the patient. An example is Dr. Bob's records are visible to all as a provider. But Dr. Bob comes under care. So his patient information should not be viewable by anyone except those directly involved in his care. By having 2 records, the self data can be protected. And that's really critical. Basic tenet in healthcare is the people viewing the patient's data are the only one viewing that data is the ones who need to know, right? So if you having to protect the data, an easy way of doing that in Salesforce is literally having the 2 accounts, because then your security and sharing model and so forth. Anyone have any additional thoughts or anything else you want to add to that?
Hi, Tina, it's Dave Smith here. I do have a quick question around that. So you would have a person account, you would have essentially, so Dr. Bob would have 2 separate logins to get to different facets of the solution. Correct?
Not logins. So you could have Health Cloud where Dr. Bob is a provider, but he doesn't have a community login, or he's not logging in directly into that. If you're doing population health management, you're a care coordinator, and you needed to know that Dr. Bob was the provider for Sally, and you're doing a care coordination for Sally because she has diabetes and is a high risk for readmission. So basically, you would want to have a contact record in Salesforce so you can associate Dr. Bob to Sally's record. That's one scenario. Second scenario is that you have a provider community where Dr. Bob does log in and is interactive with managing Sally's care. So then Dr. Bob could have a login with his contact with a associated community user, and then he could have a login through a community. If Dr. Bob's a patient, same scenario, you could have, if he's only being managed in the CRM side, then you would have that. If he is a patient, then yeah, you're going to have 2 in a community. You're going to have 2 distinct logins for the community. So it depends on how far the rabbit hole you go down with that and what you're doing.
Okay, that answers my question. Thanks.
I have a question, Tina. It's James Murphy. Maybe I'm just ignorant. I'm wondering, I didn't see on the slide any mention of like an account contact junction object, which I think it exists kind of off the shelf. I think the nonprofit starter pack has its own variation on that. Is there a reason you've left out the possibility of creating a junction object to associate potentially many accounts to one contact?
Ooh, that opens up a whole bunch of stuff. So it's a great point. The Health Cloud out of the box comes with account to account, and you also have contact to contact. Absolutely. So you could create that related but you still would have Dr. Bob as the provider, Dr. Bob as the patient, and then you could associate the two of those. But the focus here is from the user logged into Salesforce, what are they seeing? So if I am a marketer or a business operations who is responsible for selling to Dr. Bob to say, Dr. Bob, make sure you keep on sending your patients to us, I don't have access to see patient data, right? Because it's not my business. It's not within the scope of what I need to do my job. Whereas the care coordinator needs to see Dr. Bob as the patient. So that's the structure of this conversation. Now, if we wanted to create a account to account or account to contact or whatever the different ways we display relationships, we could, because maybe the care coordinator needs to see, and maybe it's useful to know that, or maybe it's not. Even implying that Dr. Bob, if I'm in the marketer and I'm looking at Dr. Bob, the provider, and I see he has a relationship with another record, just implying that he was under care can get gray, okay? Because like if and each business, healthcare business, needs to determine what is acceptable and not acceptable within their policies. And then as Salesforce technical people, we just enforce or do as they suggest.
Yeah, I was going to add that the way that this is kind of presented is more so about making sure that we're adhering to the HIPAA security aspect of it, like Tina was saying, where essentially we want to make sure that when people are logging in under specific roles, that they're only going to be able to have access and see specific types of records. So if someone's logging in and they should not be able to see any patient data, if that doctor record was associated as a patient somewhere, there would be some type of like security issue. So that's kind of what the multiple records solution is addressing.
That makes sense. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, that's our challenge in healthcare, right? Is going through that. Any other questions on this part or dialogue?
So I think one comment to add to that. I think one thing that goes along with that is when you have a household and you have family members who may be able to access that patient information. So you have one spouse who is a patient, another spouse who is a contact in Salesforce, and they may be related to that, maybe set up an account as a household, and then you, through related contacts, you share the person account with them, but then the spouse that's a contact now becomes a patient. That's when you get your duplicates in there, and potentially you could have a duplicate of both as patients, as a contact for sharing visibility of the other patient. And so it does get a little confusing when you start getting into the household. Then you get the children and so forth. There are parents or grandparents involved that have to have that linked to the household for sharing purposes. And also it can definitely get confusing. So you definitely have to start planning up front to figure out how you're going to do that from all the way through.
Thank you, Todd. And Todd actually has experience with a large hospital system. You just have to think this through. And the larger the organization, the unintended consequences. So this is something that has to be really spent a lot of time. And Todd has cut his teeth on this quite a bit. Anything else?
Tina, it's Andy Wines from New Zealand. I was the one that
You
asked the
got
question on
up.
the
We're
call
recording this. Oh my gosh, we're recording this for you, but it's so good. Andy, tell everyone what time it is, where you're at.
5:45 in the morning on Friday morning.
Good morning. What can we do for you?
Well, just saying thanks very much for restating this. And are we going to be able to get a copy of the slides as well?
Yep, the slides are going to be published in the healthcare user group community. I'll have them up and loaded by no later than this weekend. And then the video will be published on YouTube And so both will be accessible. And then feel free to take the power deck, the slide deck and take it, share it however you want to share it.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Anything else on this?
Hey, Tina, this is Prakash here. A little bit of different perspective here and maybe a slightly different question. So I have been involved in many health cloud implementations, and many places what happens is that you already have a Salesforce platform that is existing, and then you are introducing health cloud on top of that. And what I saw, at least in 60% of those kind of implementations, actually providers or physicians, they are modeled as a person account and not contact. So what is your guidance around those kind of situations, and how should we be tackling those?
So keep in mind that we're all in this together, and that none of us are representing an official opinion. I am working with a client, and I will always default to moving those to an account contact and the provider as a contact. When we're looking at provider search and all the other functionality that they have now and what they're moving to, it is always a contact model. Corinne, your thoughts on that? But I always say, no, we do traditional account contact.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I've been working on a project with a very similar use case, and there was definitely some resistance on the client side where it's like, no, it doesn't make sense for them for the provider to be associated to an account, because the provider can move around to all kinds of different accounts. They have their own practice. So we definitely had to basically just kind of address that by saying, like, no, this is the way that, it's going to be beneficial for you long term. It's going to, function this way. So we need to be able to adapt to that. And we just kind of changed around the way that they navigated to make it a little bit easier for them to adopt that as the ongoing model. So rather than them clicking into the account tab, we made a custom provider tab for them using some of the new Lightning functionality. So they just click on the provider tab rather than like getting into the account and having to navigate around to the different records that way.
Makes sense. Thank you.
We will have eventually one of these sessions, we'll dive into the provider model and the provider search. And I think also constantly reinforcing to the client, you're not going to be able to take advantage of all the new provider functionality that Health Cloud has built and will continue building. And also using the account and contact is how you get that depth. Also, if they don't go to that model, especially, it's all about the business. The healthcare is the core of healthcare is that the business model is taking care of patients. Yes, but there's still a sales process. There's still sales and marketing. Right. To track that and see that in depth, you need that account contact structure with all of those relationships to paint a true picture. Because when, a lot of people who are out there marketing to physician practices, they need to say, well, knowing that one physician can be an employee of a hospital system, but have permissions at 3 other locations, and yet also visit, 2 clinics, and then also have permissions at a skilled nursing facility. You have to be able to track that and document if you want that 360 view. And for the provider model, how are you going to be able to track that provider has a unique NPI? And then also for claims data, which is becoming bigger and bigger, and tracking on that. So, there's so many reasons to go to traditional. It's just a matter of convincing the clients.
Understood. Thank you.
No, great question. It's a challenge setting up the data model with Health Cloud. It's harder.
Yeah.
Anyone else? We got a lot more. All right, look up to account. Here's the thing, Health Cloud expects to look up to the account, even if it's custom objects. If you're looking up to the contact and having issues, look up to the account. Candidly, the best practice, everything looks up to the account. Just do that. Don't look up to the contact, look up to the account. A lot of us forget this. Enable the person accounts on page 12 of the Winter 21 Health Cloud Admin Guide. It's so small in the admin guide, and if you forget this, you're going to get errors galore. Just, I have this highlighted. I always make sure it's like when you're doing a brand new stand-up, enable a person accounts. It's very easy to miss. It's all about cases. Okay, so Health Cloud is on Service Cloud. And care plans are attached to cases, which we have down here, right? So we have a case, we have the problem, goal, and task, but it's anchored to the case. Care teams is a different way of saying case teams. Care requests are anchored to cases. It's small, but here's the case. And then there's your care request items. They're all anchored to a case as well. In Health Cloud, it's all about the cases. So that's something to understand the architecture and the structure of how this is set up. And then speaking of cases, I can't tell you how many hours was wasted on this to figure this out. To create a new care plan record type. The care plan, if you're not familiar with it, the care plan is basically a template of how if someone's newly diagnosed with diabetes and you have, say, evidence-based, that these are the steps you do to help them improve their health. Okay, you create the case record type first. And then I strongly encourage you that when you create that case record type, you create one care plan record type with the same naming convention. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's fine. But on page 92, if you're developing additional care plan types, then you need to have your case first, and that goes here, your case record type name to create your care plan record type. Any questions on all that parts that I just went through? No? Here's a little gotcha. You create a new patient Lightning record page, but for whatever reason, you can't see the subtabs. If you do not have the patient navigation, which on this screenshot, it was renamed as member navigation, but it's the patient navigation Lightning component on the page. If you do not have that on the page somewhere, the subtabs won't display. So just a little FYI, you don't have to stick with the Health Cloud out of the box. You can create as many different Lightning record pages, variations as you want. Got to have patient navigation on that though, for the subtabs to show. Patient timeline. Everyone loves the patient timeline. It's so pretty. It's so beautiful. Yay. There's a known issue. And there's the link to the known issue where it says you as a user, if your profile does not have enabled view all system permissions, view all on the profile or permission set, you're going to have issues with timeline. If you do view all, then now you just opened up your security model. So just a FYI, I've run into this with the implementation once or twice. This needs to be considered because all our client, if you are the customer, you're supporting your company, or if you're an implementation consultant, everyone loves it. It is beautiful. This is a known issue. There's a link so you can tag it and track and see when they resolve this. Integrations, storing HL7 emission discharge transfer data in Salesforce. Go to that link. It has the whole list of all the different objects. For translators, though, for those of you who've worked with ADT messages, it's basically a lump of nonsense. It looks like nonsense. To be able to have the code reorganized so you can actually read it as a human being versus machine type. HL7 Spy is a great tool. Hat tip to Beth Williams, who turned me on to that. And they do have a free 21-day trial. I was just told the other day, though, they don't have the Mac version, I believe. But go check it out. We're not getting anything for recommending this, but it's usually useful to have a tool that if you are working on HL7 integration, you do need to read the messages, you need to do the mapping. Having a tool like this, there's also, I believe, HL7 Soup. That is another great one. These are really, really useful tools to have. It's hard enough, make your lives easier.
But like you said, Tina, neither one of them work on Mac. But if you have Visual Studio, there is an extension that you can install called HL7 Tools, and it'll help you see what's in the message, and you can even set it up so that you can send messages from that too. So that's my workaround.
You know what? And when I post this, in the community, I'll ping you. So if you can put that little piece, that'd be awesome. Because which you've known, this makes it so much easier to read the messages if you can actually see the verbiage versus the segment codes.
Yeah.
For those of you who have no clue what I'm talking about, just wait. But thank you, Christine. Yeah, and I will definitely ping you in the group. And if you can type that up, that would be awesome. And then when people have questions on the tool, they know to ask you and not me. Okay. Oh, and then, hey, I don't know if you all realize, open to anyone in the world can go to these links and spin up a free 30-day org. And you can do whatever you want in there, and it goes away in 30 days. So it's not just providers, it's customers. So you as a customer can go spin these up. And a nice, neat trick is they come out with a new release, go spin up one of these free orgs and then look on the back end and see how they configured it. And then try to break it or try to build into that. These are fully functioning with demo data. Everything's in there. So these are great if you're trying to do a proof of concept, if you're anything. These are tools at your disposal and no harm, no foul. You just get in there and play. I think they give you like 5 licenses to one, and just give you enough licenses that you actually get to take it for a spin and try to do things with it. So highly recommend using these. Are great ways to learn and great ways to double check. Like if you're trying to configure something and you're not seeming to get anywhere, well, spin one of these up and go look on the back end and see how they configured it. Try to troubleshoot that way. Any questions on any of that we just discussed? Any other feedback, or anyone else have stories? No? Winter 21. So I was so excited. Intelligent document automation. I just was so excited, and I am excited actually, not so, but I am excited about this. I think this is going to be huge in healthcare. We think home health, qualitative, SNFs, everything's by fax still, right? You think they're going online? Not really, not yet. They're getting there. And what this is doing is it's saying that you can receive a fax, and through OCR being connected to Salesforce, the document can come in. You can create a mapping document for the different types of documents, and you can have a checklist for each document. It's in the Winter 21 Health Cloud Admin Guide. This is newly released with this release. So there's a couple of things I'm going to step you through here, because I was going to have this in a demo org, and I can't because, oops, I went the wrong way on that. Do y'all see the document on the screen? Do you guys see set up intelligent document automation? Thank you, Christine, for nodding. Thank you, guys. So I went through 3 orgs. So I have a demo org, which we have the Penrod Health demo org, and you'll see demos out of that as we showcase different things and, like how to do configurations and so forth. And I went to 2 clients because I'm an implementation consultant. I went to 2 clients as well as the demo org. If you look in Health Cloud right now, all of them have the license. They have the document license. Only one of the 3 had the permission set. So this is really odd. And so let me step you through this. So go to set it up. There's the document type. Go to setup, find the document type. Heads up, let me save you some time. When they say in setup, find the document type, what they really mean is go setup object manager, identity document object, fields and relationships, document type, pick list values new. That's what that really means. Because document type doesn't exist. If you go to global setup, eventually you can find it. But just a heads up, I was like, where is this? That's where it's at. Okay, great. You go add it. And then they're like, assign the document checklist license. Okay, all 3 Health Cloud orgs had that. The document checklist permission set was only available in 1 of the 3 orgs. Then it says, give the users, because then I'm like, okay, fine. In the sandbox of the org that has this, I'm like, okay, at least 1 I can do this with. And then it's like, okay, give the users or groups full read-write access to these objects. I cannot find anywhere the OCR document scan result. It's even spinning up Workbench and using version 49 and version 50. You don't know what I mean, don't worry about it, but it's just a different way of looking at the backside and trying to find something and working with the data. It's not visible. So there's that. I have a case open with Salesforce in the last 40 hours. They pretty much were like, we're researching this, we'll get back with you. And then last but not least, the Einstein form reader is not even visible. And what they have here is enabling is Einstein form reader provides optical character recognition for data extraction if your organization has Amazon Text Track license. Check with your Salesforce representative. This was, I heard, and this was confirmed on a call yesterday, that this is an added SKU. I don't know if you're going to have to only use, if you only can use Amazon, or if you can buy another OCR integration tool. I think they have it open for another integration tool. Can't confirm. But this is not looking at being available until November, December. Ideally, you should be able to still use this for the document checklist, i.e. if you would load a PDF document, like if you want to just load one in to, someone emails it to you, or you scan it, from your scanner next to your desk, and then you go ahead and load the PDF, then you should be able to, with just the functionality of this, go ahead and put the document in and map it. But right now, I have no answer. So as soon as I get an answer on the case, I will be happy to, I will post this in the community group so that we can go from there. Any questions on this part? Has anyone else played with this functionality yet or tried to get it working? No? I can't wait for it to get working. I mean, this is going to be huge. Home health and palliative care drown under paperwork, drown. This is going to be so awesome when it actually is functional. All right, so then when I spent all that time working on the document automation, I never got around to intelligent sales. Has anyone implemented this yet? Or intelligent sales has been there for a while. And the key part for this release was the mobile functionality for field reps and be able to scanning of trunk stuff. Has anyone else done this yet? No? Well, here's the video overview. I will be going into this and playing with this. And if I get the configuration set up from the mobile, I'll do a short video snippet and post it. But for a video overview for this is here for the Vidyard. And the key thing is intelligent sales is coming from the manufacturing side, but this is more specifically geared towards med devices. And the thought here is that you need to do medical device management. Your sales rep is out in the field selling devices. And a lot of that is trunk stock. It seems kind of weird, but they need to pull out, if you're not familiar with this world, you have to pull out a valve or something. You're walking into surgery and the surgeon's going to use that. And then you basically are, tracking that inventory. And then if you're a rep out in the field for medical devices, then you may need to look at your inventory and you may say, hey, Sally, I see you have part A, I need it. Can you, give it to me and request it? And all these kinds of things. So this is what this is all about. And it is coming from the manufacturing world. So once I dive more into this, I'll be happy to share. And please, anyone else who has experience with it, please give a shout out as well. And then last but not least for me for Winter 21 is in beta. And those of you who have not been around Salesforce for a while, beta means that they can put it out and then they can take it back. So I highly encourage to not develop a technical solution, like a firm technical solution, as it were, around anything that's in beta. You can tentatively plan on, but not, because again, they can take it back. And what's really exciting though, the barcode is if you're looking at for anything really, that you could do this with medical devices, right? Which they already showcased, but they're actually for the community. And this barcode is not just specific to healthcare or health cloud. It's actually for all of Salesforce, which is really, really exciting. And I do have links here to different, how you can work with it for the developer as well as the release notes. I just realized I wasn't present mode, but you can see that okay. Any questions on this or any other things that y'all have seen that you're excited about or anything with the Winter 21 release?
So the barcode scanner is based on your camera on your mobile device, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah. And then here in the developer, they have a whole link on actually getting the developers to play with this and seeing how they would want to incorporate that. But it is tied to Lightning Web.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, right? Because I think there's a bigger and bigger need for this. It's not just like here they're saying, product details, record of inventory scans, save contact details, but think about, medical accuracy and medical records. And in a hospital, they go into hospitals. There's a lot of scanning, right? They're scanning the bracelets, so forth. Well, you can do that the same actually in home health. There's like so many different areas that I can see this rolling out and being applicable.
Lab tests.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
the test.
I'm real excited about the barcode scanner and like excited to get to play around with that.
I know. Hopefully it comes out of beta. So it'll be very fascinating to see what they do with that.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was going to ask. Is there any tentative date when this will be more like a GA kind of thing?
Well, fingers and toes crossed, we'll get this soon. Yeah, but definitely exciting. Anyone see anything else with Winter 21? Okay, so ask questions, but now this is a time where I really stop and we all stop and say, does anyone in the group have any challenges or struggles they're having with Salesforce and healthcare that they want to give to the group? It is about collaboration. Also, sometimes we even have you share your screen if you want, and we can look at something. Does anyone have anything they need to talk out? Okay, well, hopefully as we go along,
I have
people
one.
Go for it. What you got?
If you don't mind, it's James. I just I'm mindful that most people here are actually users of Health Cloud, and I'm not at the moment, so I didn't want to monopolize the time. But I've got there's an organization I work with that might be a candidate for Health Cloud, and one of the things we're looking at is forms. So where they're operating, and I don't know about where you guys are operating, but in the Ontario health system, there are tons of very kind of specific forms that will need to be filled out for referrals and for hospital admissions. So I've been kind of collaborating with this midwife, and we've been mocking something up and trying to see what we can do to generate, a few common midwifery forms. I've been playing around with it, and I'm just kind of wondering what other people have done. If you have really kind of specific forms that need to be populated in a certain way. I started playing around with doing something custom. I know there's Conga Composer, there's Velocity, there's tons of tools out there, but I just wanted to hear if what other people are doing, if there's like specific insurance forms or referral forms that you need to fill out.
A key question, I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of different things, but a key question is how much is being filled out by the Salesforce user and how much is people who don't have logins to Salesforce but need to fill out the forms. There's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think probably most of it is going to be filled out by the healthcare provider, or at least in like a minimum viable product scenario, it would start with the healthcare provider. But if we could build on it to the point where the patient fills out an online application and lists all their allergies there, and kind of the provider can vet it and then it flows into the form, that would be ideal. But I think at this point we're really looking at having it come out of Salesforce.
Who would like to? We've got a couple of seasoned consultants on the line. Who wants to talk up?
Yeah, I can take a stab at it again. This is Prakash here. So, and for my client, a couple of clients, I think, uh, they had different referral forms for different, drugs. And of course, there was some information that was common across forms, but there was some unique information based on what disease state that particular drug is serving. So we took really, a good combination of configuration um, and customization route. So we configured their forms into our page layouts, like standard page layouts. And then we built lightning components where we read those utilize those standard page layout through UI or JavaScript API. We also address a lot of styling and all those kind of things within the lightning component itself. So most of the, I would say, the UI or skinning aspect we were trying to address in the lightning component through the customization, but your required fields and things and validation rules and things like those were addressed through the page layouts and validation rules, etc. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It wasn't the answer I was hoping for, some kind of like secret sauce, but maybe I just need to roll up my sleeves and write some code.
No, wait, no code. Wait, pause. No code. None of that was actual code. So
I heard something about JavaScript in there.
well, you can, but a lot of what you're looking to do is actual out of the box Salesforce functionality where you create your record, your fields, you put your page layout, and you do your lightning record page. And then you can also do some lightning conditioning, and you can do a lot right there. Or you could do a Screenflow where you can have decision logic in there, which mimics a lot. Because for your internal users, you can do a Screenflow, which if they want a more streamlined experience, that you only reveal components, but then that's a flow. You don't have to do any code on that. It's as close as you get to code without doing code in Salesforce. You could do, it depends on your use case and how complicated, but you can do a lot of this with no code at all. But then the flip side to this, and I'm not sure how many people around, we have a lot of, again, experienced consultants here, but a flip side too is that you also have facing the patient. So if they're not a community user, if you're not using the community at all, then what you could look at using is Salesforce Health Cloud does have surveys. I'm not a huge fan of them yet. I think they're still immature. And instead, I usually, for HIPAA compliant web forms, will go to Formstack. There is also Form Assembly, and I think the 123 Builder, I think, is another HIPAA compliant one. So those,
Get feedback.
Get feedback. So those are where they're out and they're HIPAA compliant, and the patient can fill out a form and it flows in and creates the record. And then you can do, put triggers or things like that on it as well for people to interact with. So you do have some options. It depends on the use case and how you're positioning that.
Sam, my first instincts were both of those.
Yeah, we've definitely run into a couple of cases where we're collecting information from people that don't have access to Salesforce, external parties like that would be community users if that was in play. But Formstack is fairly user intuitive, and you really just map like specific fields from the form that you define, obviously, to objects and fields within the system. And you can build like relationships. You can do sort of creative logical branching between form questions. Obviously, branding and theming are important for our clients as well. So they have really good tools to facilitate that as well.
Yeah, and they also have a specifically HIPAA compliant license. So.
Has anyone, this is really great for us because we're embarking on some home care intake and assessment workflow and logic. And one of the ones that was recommended to us was Formula, Formyoula. Has anyone had any experience with that product? No? Okay. These are all great suggestions.
I'm Formstack bias, always have been. They have great customer service. I know it's HIPAA compliant. They also have not only form generation or forms, they also have document generation and signature. So it's an all-stop shop. I mean, it's all contained. And usually for recommendation, it's a lot easier for clients to deal with one versus multiple vendors. But it doesn't negate that there's others that offer, good products too. And we do have a seminar coming up. It's not anytime soon though for the questions for today, right? But we do have actually a surveys and forms session that's going to be coming up here, I think in January, February, we're going to be dealing with as well. But the HIPAA compliance is important. There are a lot of people who are companies who are using intake forms and they're not taking into consideration, is it secure and in transit? And will the form vendor be willing to sign a BAA? So those are some of the things you have to take in consideration.
Right.
But yeah, these licenses are specifically really if you're looking to transmit data from outside of Salesforce into Salesforce. I think if the users are inside or using a community, like you can probably leverage Screenflows or other, standard configurations like that. But if you are specifically trying to have someone fill out a form that's outside of Salesforce, you'll need to have some sort of, third-party license to make sure that that connection is secure.
Mm-hmm.
These are all really great ideas. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna go look into some of these tools. So thank you.
Great question. Everyone in healthcare struggles with it. Tons of paper, tons of forms. Anything else?
Hi, it's Marie-Claude here. Anybody dealt with images, body images, for somebody filling out a form and pointing out issues on the body or wounds or anything like that? Or any suggestions?
I think I would want a little bit of clarity in terms of when you are referring to images, are you referring to uploading the file attachments and then attaching like appended descriptions, or like kind of what's a little bit more detail on the use case?
Oh, both case. So yes, so that's one case is some people will just upload images of, like wounds or anything like that, but it's more if you're going through an assessment and you want to indicate on somebody's body, okay, the wounds on the right, right leg, and like annotation on images.
And they're going to be inside of Salesforce?
Yes.
I just started Googling, and there is something on the App Exchange that I can't attest to. Draw your attachment.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. So if you have like a sort of image of like a human body sort of circling like the area of concern, I suppose, on that, and like saving that, so like you're mocking up the image, or you're sort of editing and mocking up the image itself.
Yes, yeah, like a front picture from the front, picture from the back, and then you're kind of annotating that picture.
Is it an actual picture, or is it like on the form where you have like, a composite body and you're just kind of pointing things out?
Oh, it can be drawn. Like it can be, we could just pick like a standard one. Not like we don't need an image of like an actual person.
Okay.
Right.
Like a body, like
outline.
like a body, like you need, a male one and a female one and so on. So that would be the
You're doing
only
a head to
difference.
toe assessment. Right. You're just doing a head to toe assessment. You're basically doing notation. The people who are doing this, are they on a tablet, laptop, or desktop?
They have they do have like a touch screen, but it's like Windows based, so they would have, browsers. They wouldn't have apps necessarily. So let's say if they're in Salesforce, they would just be accessing it from, their Windows based tablets, or they're kind of laptops, but with touch screens.
Oh, like a surface?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly like that.
Man, there's so many different ways you can design this. I mean,
Yeah.
ideally, you just want the ability to have the interaction to basically be able to document and save it. I'm for the ease of use. I hate using different application. It's almost as simply that they would. So let's for low tech, like bottom line, let's just get the job done and not be really sophisticated all about this, is that they could have a picture on their device, they pop it up, they draw on it, save it as a JPEG, and then load it as a file to the patient record. And then keep on with their notes. That's like, you could deliver that solution right here and today, right? So, you know what I'm saying? They open up Paint and they open a picture that they can do that. And then they just, save and attach. Not elegant, but it delivers, right?
It does, and I think you need like you'd still need a few objects to kind of document the location of the wound and all that. So those would all be,
but you would create that record.
But exactly.
Well, you would create the record, and so they can go to the picture and they can do that. And then they can actually really, if to tie it together, they can say, they circle this area, they can call it A1, and then on their documentation, they'll be say A1, blah, blah, blah. A2, blah, blah, blah. And then you have your key. And then they want it on their, if it's a work device, it wouldn't matter the naming convention, but, depends on, ideally you have a device that's, encrypted and, protected and all that kind of stuff. So they can save it. But once once that image is attached to that record, then they can delete it from their device. And now you have a permanent record associated, and then you have it. So now you have the pliableness, the fluidness of being able to do that, as long as they put a key by each part of that. Again, this is not like, we all want the bells and whistles, but you would deliver doing that.
Okay, thank you.
That's just one idea. I mean, we have a lot of different ideas, like James mentioned in the App Exchange, and I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't happen eventually. You're also restricted by the devices being used by the people doing the assessments too. So that's another consideration of what you have built into your device. These are good things. Anything? I think we have time for one more. Anybody else? No? Okay, so next.
I do have a quick question, Tina. Well, maybe it's not quick. It's more of a roadmap question than an implementation question, but one of the things that we're considering is remote patient monitoring. And is there there's currently the ability to to map FHIR data into Salesforce objects right now around patient EHR, patient observations and patient objects. There is the FHIR profiles exist now for vital signs observations. Have you heard, or do you know if there's any movement towards having those objects native in under either the EHR objects in Salesforce or otherwise?
You mean expanding upon the existing EHR objects they currently have, if they're going to grow them, or like there's some that are missing, like the scheduling is not as developed.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard any discussions. Now they being Salesforce, the hinting and scuttlebutt is there's more coming in spring, and every release they do add more objects to be part of Health Cloud, but I have not heard anything. Has anyone else?
No, for a lot of what I heard around biometrics and stuff like that, I know that the observation objects is kind of the go-to. But I haven't heard of anything specifically to capture that.
Yeah, there's a FHIR resource specifically for vital signs, which falls under the hierarchy of the observation as well. I was just wondering if there's more granular treatment of that and forthcoming. Thanks.
No, they haven't said anything, especially like one, I think that's a really huge use case of scheduling of appointments. Even that you have to make a custom object for it. So it's just not developed as much as we'd like to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question though. Yeah.
Yep.
So again, this is the point of this group. We'll have educational information. We'll have different speakers at different times, but it's about supporting each other. So this is awesome. And if you ever want to come and like show something you're working on and have us look at it, that's what we're here for. So next month, Lightning Scheduler implementation, how to and gotchas, and even a gotcha that we're going to go over that's not even in the documentation yet. And concurrent scheduling, community users, registered users, and community users, guest users using Lightning Scheduler. We're going to have Michael Connolly come, and he's a senior Salesforce consultant, and he has used Lightning Scheduler in all these capacities. So bring all your Lightning Scheduler questions for that. Continue the conversation. If you go to sfdchealth.com, and candidly, guys, SFDC is just forwarded to the user group because I don't want to tell people go to this long URL. So it's just an easy way of sharing. You go over there and you'll see when you come here that you have this little button here. If you click on that, that pops you in to our healthcare user group. So here this is. And again, by this weekend, probably Sunday evening, I will have the PowerPoint deck loaded and I'll let you all know where the recording is. Then also, if you go to Trailblazer Group and you click on here, you can create an email and email us, and Corinne, Mel, and I will receive the email. But I really recommend that you instead, if you have questions, post it here so we all can help each other and collaborate and grow. So there are that. And I think that is it. So, wow, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And I am just thrilled. We will be able to have those conversations of the pros and negatives of everything when we're doing Salesforce and healthcare. And I like to say that even though I've drank the Kool-Aid, sometimes Salesforce makes you want to spike my Kool-Aid with booze, because sometimes you're like, what? And we're here to help each other out through those what moments and support each other. And if there's anything else that you want to see, or please feel free to post that in the user group, and we'll see if we can't get a meeting around that topic. Mel, Corinne, anything else?
No, thanks for taking the time, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. You all have a fantastic day, and we will talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.